Hello. Thank you for taking the time to view our webinar providing an overview of veterinary shortage situations. If you have any questions as I go through the material, we provide contact information at the end of the presentation, so you can reach out with your questions after viewing. We will cover two main topics in this webinar. The first is an overview of the Veterinary Medical Loan Repayment Program and the Veterinary Services Grant Program. These are two USDA NIFA programs that use the veterinary shortage situation areas. I will provide a quick overview of each program. I will then provide an overview of the veterinary shortage situation process in general. In accordance with federal civil rights law and U.S. Department of Agriculture civil rights regulations and policies, the USDA, its agencies, offices, and employees, and institutions participating in or administering USDA programs are prohibited from discriminating based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, gender identity, including gender expression, sexual orientation, disability, age, marital status, family parental status, income derived from a public assistance program, political beliefs, or reprisal or retaliation for prior civil rights activity in any program or activity conducted or funded by USDA. Not all bases apply to all programs. Remedies and complaint filing deadlines vary by program or incident. This slide contains contact information for individuals with disabilities to request reasonable accommodations to participate in or apply to our programs. This includes language access services for limited English proficient individuals upon request. Anyone wishing to file a complaint can utilize the phone number, fax number, or postal mailing address listed on the slide. The VMLRP is a loan repayment program which awards up to $75,000 to an individual over a 3-year service commitment to a veterinary shortage situation area. Awards are made to individuals and payments are made directly to their loan service providers. Applicants apply to serve one veterinary shortage situation area and use the shortage nomination form and the requirements it contains to inform the development of their application. VMLRP applicants can apply to serve private practice areas, which are known as Type 1 and Type 2, and public practice areas known as Type 3. We will cover the details of the different types of nominations later in this webinar. VSGP is a grant that awards up to $125,000 to a veterinary clinic over a 3-year service commitment within a designated veterinary shortage situation area. Awards go to clinics to purchase equipment or offset expenses. Applicants apply to serve one veterinary shortage situation area and use the shortage nomination form and the requirements it contains to inform the development of their application. NIFA only makes one VSGP award per shortage area per year. VSGP applicants can only apply to serve private practice areas or Type 1 and Type 2 shortage areas, which also be considered rural by USDA standards. More information can be found on this rural designation in the VMLRP. A brief overview of the veterinary shortage situation nomination. Nominations are submitted by state animal health officials, also known as SAHOs. VMLRP and VSGP applicants do not submit nominations. However, they can communicate their perceived need for a veterinary shortage area to their SAHOs for consideration. Veterinary shortage situation areas are designated for only 1 year. During the open nomination period, the SAHO can submit new nominations, carryover nominations, or a combination of the two. New nominations are nominations that include either new geographic areas or areas that have previously been nominated but have been updated with must-serve species or updated activities and services. Carryover nominations are a previous year's nomination and submission and are submitted with minor revisions to have the most current statistical data. Shortage areas can be carried over for up to 3 consecutive years. With respect to the number of shortages each state has to nominate, the VMLRP allocates a set number of veterinary shortage situations each fiscal year. The state-by-state allocation can be found on the maximum nomination allocation table seen here and accessed via the link displayed on the slide. The VMLRP maximum nomination allocation table contains the maximum number of shortage situations each state can nominate as a shortage. The total combined number of new and carryover nominations cannot exceed the maximum number allocated. All nominating entities are listed in alphabetical order, followed by the maximum number of nominations that may be designated for a particular fiscal year. Part of the review process is to determine the maximum number of nominations, and if a state exceeds that amount, you'll be notified to adjust as necessary. There are 3 types of veterinary shortage situation areas. A type 1 is at least 80% full-time equivalent, or FTE, which is 32 hours a week of private practice, food supply, veterinary medicine in either rural or urban area. A type 1 shortage area may be classified as rural, urban, or other type if the veterinary service shortage to be mitigated is consistent with the definition of practice of food supply veterinary medicine. A minimum of 80% FTE or 32 hours per week commitment in part recognizes the fact that occasionally food animal veterinary practitioners are expected to meet the needs of other veterinary service sectors. A type 2 shortage area must satisfy the definition of a rural area with a minimum of 30% FTE commitment or 12 hours per week. Type 2 shortage situation areas allow for VMLRP awardees to provide food animal veterinary medicine in remote and/or economically depressed rural areas that may be unable to support a practitioner full-time. These nominations are intended for shortage situations where the submitting official believes the veterinarian can operate profitably, committing at least 30% time in food animal medicine activities based on the client base and other socioeconomic factors impacting viability of veterinary practices in the area. A type 3 shortage is at least 49% FTE or 19.6 hours a week in a public practice setting. This is a broad nomination category comprised of many types of public service veterinary training and employment areas relating to food supply and public health veterinary workforce capacity and capability. These positions are typically located in city, county, state, or federal governments and institutions of higher education. Examples are university faculty, staff or resident, veterinary laboratory diagnostician, state veterinarian or epidemiologist, county public health official, USDA meat inspector, area veterinarian in charge, and or a federal veterinary medical officer. There are instances where bordering counties along state lines might want to submit a joint shortage situation based on mutual needs in closely aligned geographic areas on either side of a state border. The process for submitting joint nominations will only count as one allocation from the state that submits the form to NIFA. Each state can combine counties per shortage area, and each SAHO must affirm the nomination at the time it is submitted. The steps for this process are as follows. Each state collaborates to identify, develop, and review the nomination. The location of veterinary shortage of the nomination form should indicate the separate counties for each state, so the nomination is specific to where the services will be required. Please be mindful that the defined service area is realistic for practitioners. The SAHOs will determine which state will submit the joint shortage nomination. The submitting SAHO will sign and check off the affirmation section of the form. The collaborating SAHOs will provide an email verification affirming that the information presented in the location, species, and responses on the form align with the purpose of the program. This email will be included with the joint shortage nomination when it is submitted to NIFA. Our first example is of a joint shortage in California and Arizona. The nomination was developed jointly between the two and covers La Paz County in Arizona and Riverside County in California. Thank you again for viewing the VMLRP Veterinary Shortage Situation Nomination Overview webinar today. If you have any questions, please reach out to the NIFA staff at vmlrp.applications@usda.gov.